The purpose of this video is to show you how to capture information via a form. I'm going to use a Google form for this example, but Microsoft have a form that is really similar. For this one, I've gone into my main Google page, and then in the top right hand corner you get an option for all your different Google apps. And if I scoot down a bit, I should find the link to the forms option. Now, because I've done quite a few forms before, because I do quizzes and things for my training, it's showing me all the forms that I've created previously. I'm just going to create a blank form from scratch, and I'm going to choose, I'll put a title in temporarily, but you'll see there's a better way of doing this in a minute. So I'm going to say this is the name of my company. We're called Wilmington Construction Limited. We're not really, I made that up. And I want to do a uniform order form, let's say. Now, it starts you off with a question, but you have lots of different options as to what type of question you want to ask. Can you see where it says it's a multiple choice question, it's a checkbox, it's a drop-down list, etc. The first thing I'm going to ask them is their name, so I'm just going to set it to short answer. If you wanted them to be able to put in a paragraph of text rather than just something short like your name or your department or whatever, there is an option for paragraph, but I'm going to make sure this is set to short answer. And there's an option here to say whether it's a required field or not. So some fields will be mandatory, and I'll say full name is one of the mandatory fields. Now, I could just make a duplicate of that one if I've got a similar field and then just change the text, but I'm going to create a new one for department next, I think. So can you see over here on the little floating toolbar, you've got a plus sign called add question. And if I choose that, I'm going to choose an option called drop down, and I'm going to say it's going to be called department, and then I will say, I don't know, you are in sales, construction, design, or accounts, let's say. And I'm going to make that a required field as well. The next one I will look at, let's say I would like to do a checkbox. So I'm going to say, are you a new starter? That's a good question. And then they can say yes or no. And I'm going to add another field that says it's a date, and then I will say, what date did you start? And they'll get a little calendar option when they try to fill in the form. Now, let's say that's all the information about the individual, and now I want to get them to complete the order form. So can you see on the bottom here, there's a little button called section, and that will create a second page effectively. So can you see section 1 of 2, and this has got all their details on it, and then section 2 of 2 is going to be the uniform order section. And within that new page, I'm going to create some different options, and I'm going to try one of each just so you can see what they will look like. There are 2 options that I think are really useful for uniform ordering. There's one called multiple choice and one called tick box grid. They're both quite similar. The difference with multiple choice is that you get you can only choose one item from each row, whereas with a tick box grid, you can choose multiple items for each row. So I'll show you, we'll do one of each. So if I do a multiple choice grid, I'll say, let's start with high-vis vest as our first option. And I might go and get an image of our high-vis vest, which I have saved in my little folder. Now, the only trouble with doing images this way, they do start out quite large, but you can resize them by the little corners. I make that a little bit smaller. If you hover over this left-hand side here, you get 3 little spots, and this is talking about the alignment of that graphic. So if I wanted it to be centered in the middle of my question, and actually what I could do, because it comes in several colors, I could have this image with all 3 colors available. So what I'll do actually is I'll choose that option called change, and I will browse for one that I prepared earlier that has got all 3 colors in it. And I think that'll look better actually, because then I can say Hyvid's vests in rows come in small, medium and large, and in the columns I will try and make them the same order as the picture. So I'll go, they come in yellow, orange or pink. I'd love a pink Hyvid's vest, how cool is that? Now I'm going to do a new one for, this time I'm going to do that for hard hats, I think, but instead of doing it as a multiple choice grid, I'm going to do it as a tick box grid. And actually I think they're called safety helmets. And I'm going to go and get a picture. Again, what I've done with a little bit of fiddle faddling in PowerPoint actually is created myself all my different colours in one image, and then saved it as a PNG, which is an option that you get from PowerPoint, or you can save it as a JPG, whatever. And then I'm going to say, this time, let's say safety helmets only come in one size, so I don't need to have the size down here. But what I could do is I could have one as colour and one as quantity. So you get more options, or an infinite number of rows, but a kind of finite number of columns. So I think the columns I'll make the quantity. So let's say quantity 1, that I'll say is quantity 2, and that is quantity 3. And the rows I will do with the different colours. So I'll go yellow, blue, pink, black and red. And I think the last one I'll do, I will do as a checkbox. I'm going to say these are safety boots. Now, the nice thing about checkboxes is that instead of just getting an option to put an image next to the item itself, you can have an image next to each option. So can you see I get a little add image option here? Because I have 2 different colours of safety boot. They can come in black. So I'll say safety boot, black. And I can do the same thing, but I've got exactly the same boot in a different colour, which is called stone. And I'll go fetch the stone version. Now, the only thing is with this way of doing it is I don't get an option to pick what size I want. So I'm going to do that as a separate question. So I'm going to do a new question, which I will have, let's say, as a drop-down list. And I will say, I don't know, choose boot size. I'm going to start with the smallest one. So let's say that's UK size 4. And I'm just going to copy and paste this with Control C and Control V. But you have to remember to change the size because it doesn't allow you to have 2 options that are identical. And then hopefully I can fairly quickly just paste these in and change the size. I hope there isn't too many options. I'm going to go up to a size 10. I apologise, you've got bigger feet than that. Now let's say that's all the options. I've gone through and put all my different products in. I want to have a quick look and see what my form looks like right now. Can you see there's a little preview option here that looks like a little eye, and it shows you what the user will see, and you can see full name, department's a little drop down list. We can't leave full name blank, it wouldn't let me. I'm just going to say Annie Test. Are you a new starter? Yes, I am. When did I start? Today. And then I get a little next option. If I hadn't filled in the name, it wouldn't let me go to the next page, actually, because we set that as a mandatory field. And I need a yellow, small, high-vis vest. And can you see with these little radio buttons, you can only choose one on each row. So I could say I want a small yellow, a medium orange, and a large pink. But I can't have two of the same colour and the same size. That's the only downside of the radio options. Whereas these little tick boxes, you can have multiple options. So I could say I'll have 3 yellows, 2 yellows and 1 yellow. Maybe I should have done these the other way around, to be honest, because that doesn't make a lot of sense. But it means that I can have different amounts of different colours. With my boots, I'm going to say I would like them in black and I would like them in a size 8. Now, normally, when you get to this point, you'd be able to hit submit, and what happens to it is that data goes off and sits in a Google Sheet, and whoever created the form will get an email to say somebody's updated your form, and when they go and check the sheet, you'll see all the information is in there. But I haven't published it yet, so this is kind of fake data. Can you see up here it's got not published? So what I'm going to do is come out of my preview mode, and there's a few little polishy bits that I want to do before I publish. Can you see at the top here, there's a thing called Customize Theme, and this is talking about the colours that you want to use, the font styles that you want to use, and so on. So the text style for the header, everything is set to Roboto at the moment, or Roboto, I don't know. I'm going to change that to, let's say, Impact, and you can see it's just that header that's changed. And actually, I'll change everything to Impact. Can you see that's the headings for my questions, and that's the answers. Now, I don't like Impact really because it's not very clear. So I'm going to switch back to, let's say, something like Montserrat, which is nice and skinny and clear and will show up well if it's going to come up on a small screen like a mobile phone or whatever. The header, I'm going to go off and choose my logo. So if I go to where it says upload here, I can go and browse for my own logo. Now, this is a made-up company that I made up just for this form. And unfortunately, can you see, you can't have the whole logo fitting in this square. And although it looks like you can make it bigger, you can actually only make it smaller. So I'm going to just have just the name of the company as my header and leave that bit of my logo off. And then when I choose save, can you see I've got my construction heading up here. So I don't really need the name Wilming Construction again. So I'm just going to take that uniform order form text and pop that in as the heading. And then I'll put a little sub heading, say, please allow 5 days for delivery or something. And you get a choice of colour schemes. So can you see it's quite nice in that it's automatically picked up the colours that I used in my logo, which is super intelligent of it. But if you want a different colour, you can choose this little plus sign and you can choose whatever colour you want. I really like the colours that it chose because it matched my orange really nicely. So I'm going to leave it as the orange. The background colour, this colour here, I'm just going to make the lightest colour so I get as high a contrast as possible. And now my order form looks quite professional, I think. So I think I'm ready to publish. So if I choose my little publish option up here, I'm going to leave it set to anyone with a link, so I can just email a link to somebody and they'll be able to fill it in. And then when I choose publish, in a minute you get a copy of the link up here. I'm going to tick where it says shorten URL. That's the location of the Google form, and it's just made it a bit easier to manage. And I'm just going to copy that into my notepad because I might want to send that to somebody directly. I don't want to be able to find it really easily. So I'm going to save that somewhere sensible in a minute. And then my form is ready to go. So I will come back on the next video and I will show you what happens once somebody's filled their form in. We'll have a look at the Google Sheet that you get and how you download that into Excel.